Hi, welcome to vNode Azure IoT Module tutorial or quick start guide. In this video, we're going to show you how to configure our vNode IoT Azure IoT Hub model, which means it's directly or native model that we developed for you guys, so you can start collecting data from your PLCs or plant floor devices, or any sensors, or plant floor, or even industrial devices, and send this information back to your Azure IoT Hub. So this model, it's part of the big amount of models that vNode platform has. And actually, we want to make this video so you can start learning how to use this, how to configure our model, and how easy it can be to send information from your PLCs back to the cloud, actually. So, first of all, I'm gonna show you here that I already created an account on Azure IoT and Azure in Microsoft. All right. So there's one thing really interesting and really important. We must need to create an IoT Hub device or an IoT Hub instance first of all, so we can start creating and collecting information. Okay. If you hit here on IoT Hub, right here, you can add a new IoT Hub if you prefer. Okay, you can click here on a subscription Azure. This is the one the subscription that you already have, or the payment terms that you have. Actually, there's like a resource group, which means it's like a group associated to your IoT Hub. It's like the device, and right here you can hit and type in a name for your IoT Hub. Okay, I already did this right here. If you, I can go here over there. I already did this, and I have one that is called Azure Broker, right? Azure Broker, once I created it, my IoT Hub, it will display this window in which we have to establish some kind of communication previous to connect with our Azure IoT client from vNode. All right. So connecting to Azure has two ways. In this case, we can use a certificate or token SaaS with like a password and even on a username too. And there's another way that is like certificates by any or a interface, which is means that there is like an X509 certificates. Okay, so on this video we're going to see how to configure using a username and a password from Azure IoT. All right, so once I created my IoT Hub, I will go to share access policies right here. Okay, and that stop like that. Stop here. For in this case, we must need to create an SaaS token. This token is like a security and private password that allows only the ones that have this kind of parameters of security will connect directly to Azure IoT Hub. Okay, so we use a like wizard client that helps us to do this. It's called Device Explorer. It's called Device Explorer. Okay, we open it here. This will help us to create our SAS token and also to deploy the whole information that we need just to create the whole connection to our broker. In this case, that it will be like Azure. Okay, so if I go here, I just opened my Device Explorer. I'm gonna minimize first, and I'm gonna show you here that if you go to share access policies right here, okay, and you go to IoT Hub Owner, down, if you scroll down, you will see that there's like a connection string primary key. This connection string primary key will act like a security parameter, like a link that will be useful to create our SAS token. Okay, so I'm gonna copy the clipboard right here. Okay, I'm gonna copy it here. I'm going to open up my device explorer again. All right, so I'm gonna copy it right here. My In this case, um, my primary key, and I'm gonna hit on update. Okay. Our device explorer said that the settings updated successfully, which is mean that we are going on a good way. Okay, and after that, you can go to management pane, and you must need to create a device. I already created one, that is a vNode 01, but I can show you how to do it. Like, you hit on create button, okay, hit the name that you want to be called or your, in this case, device, and check the auto generate keys, right? Hit on create, and it will be deployed like this. Okay. Now it is time to generate the token, which is the password. Okay, that will be necessary for the connection to Azure IoT Hub. Okay, so go to the SAS token pane, and you can select the device ID, in this case the one that you already created on management pane, and hit on the TTL days for the certificate of the password. In this case I'm gonna hit 365 days. Okay, 1 year. I'm gonna hit on generate button. Okay, so this is pretty much like an interesting thing because we need to use this part. As you can see, you must need to select this, starting from the share access signature. After that, there's another share access signature uh, under the second share access signature. You can select it and copy this one. Okay, just copy, and this will be useful for the password of your SAS token. Okay, now that we have our password of our SAS token, that I already copied this, okay, um, we need to configure our vNode Azure IoT module, okay? So we open up our vNode platform and hit on in this case, the user and password that comes with vNode by default, admin of vNode. Go to configure pane, okay? And configure pane, there's models, all right? All the models, you can select this button and create a new model, okay? This new model, you can select and put it like a name to it, or you can put it like an Azure or Azure name. I don't know. You prefer the one that you prefer, okay? Once you do this, okay, it will show you that under model type, there's uh, there's a model called MQTT client. MQTT is a protocol for end-to-end communications that allows communication from any application to one to another. All right. So Azure IoT comes with a broker. This is a broker is like an intermediate that will act like an agent that manage the communication between two applications. The application from the third party and the application in this case that will be Azure IoT as a cloud as an cloud environment, right? So we must need to connect directly to Azure Broker, Azure Broker in this case. So we just need to select MQTT client. I given a name like MQTT for the model. Already did it. So once I create it, hit on save right here, and you can go over here to the models back down, and you will see that I can create a model, a new connection in this case. I'm gonna create a new connection. I'm gonna hit right here. I'm gonna put it Azure 2. All right here. And this is pretty much like an interesting part because here is where we can configure the whole information according to your Azure IoT Hub that you already configured in the past. Okay, so first of all, we must need to select Microsoft Azure as our instance or destination broker, and you will see that there's also Amazon Web Services. There's also Google IoT Core, and there's a custom, which is means that we can connect to any broker over MQTT in the market, and we have the three most important on the world brokers that are Google Cloud Platforms, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure with a directly or or native communication. Okay, so I'm gonna select Microsoft Azure, which is we are working with it, and actually you can select the password certification. The username that you can see here is composed by the broker URL and also with a slash and the device ID that you already created. Okay, so how do we can set this? How can we look for the URL of our broker? Let's go back to our Azure account, and you will see under your IoT Hub that you already created, there is a host name. This host name is azurebroker.azuredevices.net. Okay, this is pretty much the URL of our broker. Okay, once we know that, we must need to know also the ID, in this case the device ID in this case, which you already created because you can do it by yourself. Actually, there's no restriction in this case. You can type any name you want. Okay, so if you go back to vNode, here I pasted the URL, and as you see, I put my in this case my device ID called vNode01 here. So there's the username. And what about the password? The password is the one that I already copied and created first of all on my device explorer right here. If you can see this is my password. Okay, that's pretty much the SA token. Okay, so I'll copy and paste it here. Okay, you can see. And after that, there's no certificate, there's no private key, there's no root C8 because we are not using the option of X509 certificates, right? So first, well, let's continue with the communication. Let's use or set up the protocol for the communication. This is like MQTTS, which is already selected by default by our platform actually. And there's again you have to put it the broker URL. That's the one that you put it right here. But you just need to do not use the device ID, just the URL. Okay. The port number that we use, this is like a default port for MQTT is 8883. Okay, 883. And there's like a client ID, which means the same name as you can put any name you want if you want to use the same name as the device ID, or if you want to put another different name, there's not a big deal. This name it will be necessary only just for like tracking the communication from the client to the broker. Okay, just to identify the communication which is one of the most important part here in MQTT is that you can see who makes the messages, who sent the messages. Okay, so the client ID is pretty much to identify who is sending the message, who is requesting the message. Okay, in this case, vNode01 is the client ID for my client that I'm trying here to configure right here. Okay, and there's another thing that we have to talk about is like a publisher and subscribers. MQTT protocol works with publish and pub and sub, which is mean that there's a difference between publisher, which is mean that the publisher can publish data to the broker, and then the broker will send it back to the Azure, or you can behave as a writer or even a subscriber, which is mean that you can collect data from the broker. I mean, you can take data from the Azure IoT Hub and you take it back to your vNode and then move it to your control network or whatever you need. Okay, so in this case, I'm trying to use a publisher, because I want to send information to Azure in this case. That's pretty much like a 90% of the projects will need only just to send or publish information to broker. So there's not a big deal on us right now. So I'm gonna create a new publish. Okay. So just hit on here, new publisher. Okay. And after that, you can go over here, and there's a topic that you need to put. Okay, the topic is like a path where the data that you are going to send will be located on the broker or in the Azure IoT. The topic, there's two ways of use the topic. First of all, you can create your own topic, and there's not a big deal. You can use it using like this syntax, okay, with slash, backslash or slash, devices slash vNode o1 messages slash events, okay. In this path, the information or my tags coming from my PLCs, from my sensor, from my platform devices will be located and will be sent and located under Azure IoT. Or even you can look for a predefined topics that Azure IoT comes with, and you can select and put it right there. Okay, I already created my own topic actually. Okay, and QS is the quality of the message actually. It will depends on how 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 will how important is the data for you, and how important is the data will be approached to your broker. Okay, I'm gonna leave it on QS1. Okay, and after that there's the tag filters. Tag filters are the tags, I mean the tags, the tags that will be published to in this case to the Azure IoT. I already created on vNode some simulated tags, so I just put it right here, the path in which the tags are on my data on my vNode. If you can see here in tags, there's a sim folder, and there's power and current and whatever. So I'm gonna look it for sim powered tag. Okay, if I go back to the MQTT, there's the same thing. You can see here, sim powered. Okay, and that's it. I'm gonna hit on save. Okay, and we finish to start to configure the IoT, in this case the client, vNode client, for communication to Azure IoT. Okay, so you can test this information using an MQTT tester. If you want to use or to see if the communication is approaching to your broker, actually you just need just to test it, or even you can use like a guide. You can guide by using the log of vNode. In this case, the log will help you to see if you are connected or not to the broker. Okay, so I'm gonna open it here just to see. Let's go to okay. Let's go. There's go. Well, you can see there's like we are connected actually to the broker. There's a connection. We are pushing data. We are publishing packets, and there's a lot of packet. In this case, tag updated with the value, with the quality, and the timestamp. Okay, so if you want to test the software, the platform, you just need to open up your web browser here on vnodeautomation.com, download the software, even for Windows and also for Linux, even ARM, okay, and start testing it. Our software comes with a one hour trial. In this case, once the trial expires, you just restart the service and start working again. Or if you prefer, you can call me, send me an email, send us an email to support robot.vnodeautomation.com or info@vnodeautomation.com, and we can provide you like a trial for 13 days too. All right. I hope you will enjoy this video. If you need something else more, please give us a call, send us an email, and we will be happy to help you. Okay. Just thank you very much for your time, and remember, if you need something else about our platform, please call us. Thank you very much. Bye.